picture this. You're you're right in the middle of sharing a story with your spouse.
Right.
Maybe you're chopping vegetables in the kitchen and recounting something wild that happened at work.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a new idea you've been, turning over in your head for weeks. Or perhaps you're finally sitting down on the couch and sharing some really vulnerable, complex feelings you've been wrestling with.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking, you're engaged, you're laying it all out there, and then you look over.
So you immediately see it.
You see it, that glazed look,
Yes.
the slightly vacant stare. You can almost tangibly feel them mentally scrolling through something else entirely.
Completely checked out.
Exactly. They're physically standing right there in the room with you, but mentally they are miles away. It's like, ugh, like the lights are on, but nobody is actively manning the front desk.
It is a universally recognizable moment for anyone who has been in a long-term relationship.
Oh, for sure.
And it is usually followed by a very rapid, very predictable sequence of emotional reactions from the person trying to speak.
Oh, absolutely. First comes that flash of frustration.
Right.
Then comes that heavy, pointed sigh.
Yes.
Then you find yourself repeating the exact same sentence you just said, only this time you've layered a distinct edge onto your voice.
The completely involuntary edge.
Right. Or, worse, you just throw your hands up, mutter never mind, and give up altogether. You just swallow the rest of the story and stop talking.
It happens all the time.
If you've ever been in that exact scenario, we are dedicating today's deep dive entirely to you. Our mission today is unpacking an article titled, "Does Your Spouse Tune You Out? Understanding Selective Hearing in Marriage."
It's such a great piece.
It really is. We are going to get to the absolute bottom of what is really happening in the brain and the relationship during those frustrating moments.
And before we get into the neurological and emotional mechanics of it all, I want to offer some immediate reassurance here.
Please do.
If you are listening to this on your commute or while walking the dog and nodding along, you are completely normal. You are not alone in this dynamic. The research highlights right out of the gate that selective hearing is one of the most common, pervasive struggles couples face.
Which is strangely comforting.
Right. But crucially, and this is the part that often surprises people, it rarely means your partner is ignoring you on purpose.
Yeah.
It is almost never a calculated, malicious slight.
Okay, let's unpack this because the core premise of our source material today completely flips the script on how we usually view this problem.
It really does.
The overarching thesis is that selective hearing actually has less to do with the ears and everything to do with the heart.
Yes.
It's an emotional and physiological phenomenon, not an auditory one.
We tend to pathologize the behavior right away. We view it as an attention span problem.
Or a sign of disrespect.
Exactly. But the insights we are looking at ask us to look much deeper, to see this as a symptom of an underlying dynamic rather than the disease itself.
Like it's a surface-level manifestation of something happening underneath the hood.
Precise.
So if we take, "They just think I am boring" off the table, which is a huge relief, by the way.
Definitely.
What is actually driving this? Because in the moment, it feels entirely intentional. You assume they just don't care.
That is the immediate narrative we tell ourselves.
Right. We think they aren't listening, therefore my thoughts and feelings are not important to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the research reveals 3 very specific underlying reasons for why selective hearing happens. Let's deconstruct the why. The first hidden cause identified is mental overload.
It really does feel intentional in the moment, but mental overload is a deeply physiological response.
How so?
Think about the modern cognitive load. We are talking about back-to-back Zoom meetings.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The constant pinning of group chats, doom scrolling the news cycle, managing household logistics, parenting fatigue.
It's endless.
It is. And when chronic stress or daily exhaustion sets in, the brain actually filters information automatically. Think about what the human brain's primary evolutionary job is. Survival and energy conservation. If your spouse has had a day filled with high-stakes decisions or massive sensory overload, their cognitive bandwidth is essentially maxed out.
Like a smartphone dropping to 1% battery.
Exactly.
The operating system just automatically starts shutting down all the non-essential background apps to keep the entire system from crashing.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. The brain simply starts filtering auditory input.
Wow.
It's not that they are sitting there making a conscious, active choice to ignore your story about the grocery store. It is that their overloaded neurological system, specifically the prefrontal cortex, is automatically filtering out incoming data to preserve whatever tiny fraction of energy is left.
So it's biological.
Yes. Understanding that this is an automatic physiological response to fatigue is crucial because it immediately depersonalizes the interaction. It is a biological limit of human cognitive capacity.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But what if it's Saturday morning? Nobody is stressed. Nobody is fresh off a terrible work day. We're just drinking coffee. And I still get the blank stare. What then? Because it can't always just be about being tired.
And it isn't. That brings us to the second cause, which is significantly heavier.
Okay.
Emotional disconnection.
That sounds intense.
It happens when there have been repeated misunderstandings or lingering unresolved tensions in the relationship over time. What's fascinating here is the psychological concept of unconscious disengagement.
Unconscious disengagement, meaning they don't even realize they are checking out.
Precisely. If a couple has a history of simple conversations quickly turning into stressful arguments,
Right.
or casual stories somehow spiraling into hurt feelings, the brain learns to view communication itself as a potential threat.
Oh, wow.
The nervous system starts associating your voice, or the act of sitting down to talk, with impending friction.
So it's like stepping on a conversational landmine. The brain is bracing for an explosion that hasn't even happened yet.
Exactly. So, to avoid that conflict, a partner will unconsciously disengage. They tune out, because tuning in has historically led to a fight.
Or to feeling criticized.
Yes. Again, they aren't looking at you and thinking, I'm going to intentionally ignore my spouse today. Their subconscious nervous system is essentially saying, let's keep the peace by staying emotionally detached.
Let's fly under the radar.
Right. It is a defense mechanism built entirely out of self-protection and a deeply rooted desire to avoid another painful misunderstanding.
That is incredibly sad when you really think about it.
It is.
The tuning out isn't malice or apathy. It's a shield.
Yes.
It's an attempt to not rock a boat that they feel is already taking on water. It is self-preservation masking as indifference.
That's a great way to put it.
But there is a third cause mentioned in our material, and this one is so incredibly common. I think every single person listening has been guilty of it at some point.
Oh, definitely.
It's all about everyday communication habits, specifically the insidious habit of listening to respond rather than listening to understand.
This is perhaps the most common conversational trap in modern relationships.
Yeah.
When you are listening to respond, you are essentially just waiting for your turn to speak. You aren't really absorbing the meaning of what the other person is saying.
Right. We all do this. You hear the first half of what your partner says, and then your brain goes to work formulating your counter-argument.
Or your advice.
Or your own related anecdote. They're talking about a frustrating email from their boss, and you have completely stopped listening because you are mentally queuing up your own story about how your boss is actually way worse.
And that specific habit breaks the connection right in the middle of the exchange.
Because you literally stopped listening.
The moment you started planning your reply, you are no longer present in the room with the speaker. You are living in the future, rehearsing your own script.
Wow.
And the person speaking can feel that invisible shift. They can intuitively tell you, you aren't absorbing their words anymore. You were just waiting for them to take a breath so you can jump in and take the microphone.
So what does this all mean? We have mental overload, where the brain is just out of battery.
Right.
We have emotional disconnection, where the subconscious is actively dodging perceived conflict.
Yes.
And we have bad listening habits, where we were just waiting for our turn to perform.
Exactly.
All of these create the frustrating phenomenon of selective hearing. But what is the actual impact of this dynamic on the unheard partner over time?
It's significant.
Because our sources don't just explain the psychology of why it happens. There's a pretty stark warning about where this ultimately leads if left unchecked.
The psychological ripple effect here is profound. When someone repeatedly feels unheard, when they consistently hit that wall, the glazed stare, they initiate a process of pulling back.
Withdrawing.
Yes. It is a methodical, albeit often unconscious, retreat from the relationship.
They start curating what they share.
They speak less.
They stop offering up those little mundane details of their day, the funny things they saw on the commute. And eventually, they share fewer and fewer of their deeper thoughts, their fears, their dreams.
And the most tragic part of this retreat is the final stage. They eventually just expect that they won't be understood.
That expectation of being ignored becomes the new accepted baseline of the marriage.
Exactly. When you fundamentally anticipate that your words will fall on deaf ears, you stop expending the emotional energy required to speak them. You protect your own vulnerability by silencing yourself.
There's a phrase used in our source material to describe this phenomenon that genuinely gave me chills. quiet distance.
Yes, quiet
I
distance.
think that is such an accurate, terrifying descriptor. Because when we picture serious marital problems, we're socially conditioned to think of explosive
We
arguments.
think of shouting matches.
Slam doors, dramatic ultimatums. We think of very loud problems.
But the real danger of selective hearing is its profound silence.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually result in a massive blowout. It results in two people sitting on the exact same couch, completely cordially but emotionally existing miles apart.
Just totally disconnected.
The quiet distance is a slow, imperceptible drift.
Yeah.
You don't even realize you are floating away from each other until you look up one random Tuesday and realize you can barely see the shoreline of your own relationship.
And because it is so quiet, it is so easy to ignore or justify.
Very easy.
You can look at your marriage and tell yourself, well, at least we aren't fighting. We get along fine.
But the mere absence of fighting is not the same thing as the presence of connection.
Right. A
Right.
truce is not a partnership.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this quiet distance is the ultimate breeding ground for deeply rooted resentment and profound loneliness.
It's isolating.
Being lonely in an empty room is one thing. Being lonely in a room with your life partner, sitting right next to them while they scroll on their phone, is a much more painful, isolating kind of loneliness.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the insights we're exploring today do not leave us stranded in that quiet distance.
No, they don't.
There is a massive paradigm shift offered here. The core takeaway is that this selective hearing, this deeply frustrating tuning out, isn't just a problem to be eradicated.
It's actually an opportunity.
It's an opportunity for healing.
This is the pivot that completely changes the trajectory of how couples communicate. Instead of viewing the glazed look as a personal insult
Or a sign of disrespect.
or a character flaw,
Yeah.
we are invited to decode the signal.
Decode the signal. It is described as an emotional signal that is silently saying, we're missing each other right now. Let's realign.
Think of it exactly like a check engine light illuminating on your car's dashboard.
Okay.
When that little orange light comes on, you don't get out and start screaming at the light bulb itself.
Right. You don't take it personally.
You recognize it as a vital indicator that something under the hood, something you can't immediately see, needs your attention and care. Selective hearing is a relational check engine light.
It's a diagnostic tool.
Yes. If your partner is tuning out due to mental overload, the signal is flashing to tell you both that the pacing of your lives is currently unsustainable.
And if they're tuning out due to emotional disconnection,
The signal is highlighting a critical need to repair past hurts and rebuild safety.
I love that. If you can train yourself to read that signal correctly rather than just reacting with immediate anger, you move from an adversarial stance
me versus you.
to a collaborative stance.
Yeah.
Which is us versus this disconnect.
It requires a tremendous amount of emotional maturity.
Oh, yeah.
It asks you to look at a partner who is visibly ignoring you and think they must be overloaded or feeling unsafe, rather than they are being incredibly rude.
Which is hard to do in the moment.
Very hard. But that specific shift in perspective is the very key that unlocks the door to reconnection.
So how do we actually fix this practically? Because shifting our perspective is great, but in the heat of the moment when you are feeling ignored, you need tools.
You do?
You can't just hand your partner a psychology manual and hope for the best.
Right.
Our material today outlines 4 small, powerful, highly actionable steps to fix this dynamic. Let's really dig into these because this is the stuff you can start using at the dinner table tonight.
Absolutely.
The very first step is simple but difficult. Pause before reacting.
This is the foundation that makes the other 3 steps possible.
Just taking a breath.
The advice here is to take a literal physical breath when your partner seems distracted, instead of immediately assuming they don't care and lashing out.
So what's happening there psychologically?
Well, what you're doing in that one thickened pause is interrupting a deeply ingrained neural pathway. Your brain is used to a lightning-fast sequence: perceive distraction, feel rejected, react with frustration.
It's automatic.
By pausing, by taking that breath, you insert a wedge of conscious choice into that automatic sequence. You stop the amygdala hijack.
You stop the runaway train of assumption.
Exactly.
You give yourself 1 single second to remember the check engine light analogy before you start taking a hammer to the dashboard.
Perfect analogy.
So, once we have paused and stopped ourselves from snapping, how do we actually get their attention without starting a fight? Because saying, "Are you even listening to me?" rarely goes well.
Rarely ever.
This brings us to the second step. Use gentle curiosity. And
Yes.
there are specific phrases suggested here. Instead of the accusation, you ask, is now a good time to talk? Or, can we chat later when you can really focus?
The psychological brilliance of those specific phrases is that they completely remove defensiveness from the equation.
Because it's a question, not an attack.
Right. If you accuse someone of not listening, their immediate biological response will be to defend themselves from an attack. They will instinctively argue that they were listening.
They'll repeat the last word you said to prove it.
Yes. And suddenly you are spending 20 minutes fighting about who said what.
We've all been there.
But when you ask, is now a good time? You are honoring their autonomy. You are validating their current state.
You're giving them an out.
You are giving them a graceful exit if they are mentally overloaded. And crucially, you are taking ownership of your own boundary and your own need to be truly heard.
It's incredibly disarming. It functions as an invitation to connect rather than an accusation of failure.
Exactly.
So let's say they say yes, now's a good time, and they put the phone down. How do we ensure we don't just fall back into bad habits? The third step is listen for feelings, not just words.
This step directly combats that bad habit we discussed earlier, listening only to respond.
Right.
When you listen for feelings, you are engaging in active, empathetic listening. You are looking past the literal vocabulary being used to find the emotional subtext beneath it.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. If your partner comes home and complains about the terrible traffic on the highway, listening merely for words might prompt you to reply with your own story about how construction on your route was worse.
You're just trading data points.
Right.
Which doesn't foster any actual connection.
Exactly. But listening for feelings means recognizing the exhaustion or the frustration in their voice. It means looking at their slumped shoulders and responding with, "You sound completely depleted." That commute must have been incredibly stressful. Do you need a minute to decompress before we start dinner?
Wow. That's a huge difference.
You are addressing the underlying emotion, the feeling of being out of control or overwhelmed, rather than just debating the facts of the traffic jam.
And connection truly begins when both people feel emotionally safe enough to be heard. You cannot cultivate emotional safety if you are only ever trading data points, like two coworkers passing in the hallway.
You have to acknowledge the messy feelings behind the data.
Because emotional safety is the ultimate antidote to that unconscious disengagement we talked about earlier.
Yes. If someone is tuned out historically to avoid conflict, proving to them consistently that communication can be safe, empathetic, and validating is the only way to coax their nervous system back into connection.
You have to prove that it is safe to come out from behind the shield.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, step 4. Express appreciation. The guidance here is astonishingly simple. It is suggesting we just say, thanks for listening, or I really appreciate you talking this through with me.
It sounds almost too simple. But positive reinforcement is one of the most powerful, proven tools in behavioral psychology.
Really? Just saying thank you.
Yes. It is essentially operant conditioning for your relationship. When you explicitly thank your partner for being present and listening, you are reinforcing the exact behavior you want to see more of in the future.
You're validating their effort to tune in.
It sends a clear, unambiguous message that their attention is a precious gift that you recognize and deeply value.
That makes sense.
That positive feedback loop makes them far more likely to offer that gift again because it proves that their effort to communicate truly matters to the health of the relationship.
Pause before reacting. Use gentle curiosity. Listen for feelings. Express appreciation. They sound like such small, almost insignificant adjustments.
But they're not.
No. Applied consistently over time, they are the exact tools needed to completely dismantle that quiet distance before it becomes an unbridgeable canyon.
To synthesize all of these concepts, there's a beautiful quote from the research that serves as the ultimate North Star for this entire discussion.
Oh, let's hear it.
It simply says, "Love grows where listening lives."
Love grows where listening lives. That is profound.
It truly gets to the heart of the matter. We are reminded that the ultimate goal of a marriage or any long-term partnership isn't perfect communication.
Because perfect communication is a myth.
It is an impossible, exhausting standard. We are all human beings. We are all going to have days where we are distracted by our phones, overloaded by our jobs, or just plain cranky.
Yeah.
The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistent connection.
Consistent connection.
And that consistency is achieved by slowing down our reactions, listening with genuine empathy rather than defense, and speaking to each other with clear, loving intention.
It transforms everyday conversations. The seemingly mundane chats about grocery lists or venting about work drama or figuring out weekend plans into actual tangible moments of understanding and intimacy.
It really does.
So, summarizing the core lesson from this deep dive, the next time you are sharing a story and you see that glazed look and you feel that familiar flash of annoyance because your spouse has tuned you out, don't see it as a personal insult.
Don't take it personally.
Don't let the frustration dictate your next move.
Yeah.
View it as a gentle reminder, a relational check engine light, signaling that it is time to intentionally tune back into each other again.
This raises an important question, and it's a thought I want to leave everyone to mull over today.
Okay.
We have just spent this time exploring how selective hearing, which feels so incredibly frustrating and dismissive on the receiving end, is often just an unconscious defense mechanism to manage mental overload or avoid conflict.
Right.
If that is true, what other frustrating habits in our relationships might we be completely misinterpreting?
Oh, that's interesting.
What other annoying behaviors are we viewing as outright rejection or apathy, when they are really just silent requests for patience, grace, and a desperate need for realignment?
That is a massive paradigm shift to chew on. Something to really think about the next time you feel that quick flash of annoyance over a forgotten chore or a distracted comment. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take these insights, try out those 4 steps at the dinner table tonight, and bring a little more intentionality into your next conversation. We will catch you next time.